These are movie franchises that desperately need to stop making more sequels versus ones that actually need way more movies. The number one priority in Hollywood right now should be to stop making Fast and Furious movies immediately. I don't know how we keep getting so many of these. If you count all the mainline films and the spin-offs of the Fast and Furious movies, we are at 12 of them right now, and they're already planning on a 13th one coming out in a couple years. That's not to say that all these Fast and Furious movies are just absolutely terrible. I think a lot of the first earlier on ones, like maybe the first 5, are actually pretty decent films. Now these films have just gotten obnoxious, honestly. They're so far away from where they started because, again, you're doing so many movies in a franchise. There's only so many places you can take the plot of this before you're just running out of ideas and doing stupid things just to keep making these. A new movie franchise I really do want to keep going on is the Super Mario franchise and just Nintendo films in general, because I feel like there's just so much potential here, and the first Super Mario Bros. Movie was a lot of fun. As long as other films in this series can keep up the quality of the first one, I don't see an issue with keep making more of these things. Obviously, first of all, I would like to see a Super Mario Bros. 2. I think Waluigi and Wario are givens to be in the film, but I really hope they do that. Characters like Yoshi or Peach would also be pretty fun to see in this movie, but who knows, there's so many different ways they can take this and so many different characters to expand on. That's why I want to see more films in this universe. The potential for other spin-offs could also be incredible, like a Luigi's Mansion movie or maybe miniseries. You can't tell me that would not go absolutely hard. It would be so dope. I don't want the Fast and Furious movies to go to space. I think a Super Mario Galaxy film would be super fun. This was one of my favorite Mario video games of all time, and I just feel like there's so much unique stuff you could do in a film format of this movie. I'm kind of wrapping in other Nintendo properties into this too. Now, I don't want these to be connected to the Mario movies themselves. Like, I don't want big crossover events, but I think a Metroid film would be incredible. We know we're getting a live-action Zelda film, which I'm also super excited for and would love to see more sequels of. Let me know what other Nintendo properties you think they should make movies of in the comments below. A franchise that desperately needs to be put an end to is the John Wick franchise, because it's not like the Fast and Furious where it's like, oh no, there's just so many of these and they're so bad nowadays. No, these are 4 amazing movies, but I'm worried if we keep making stuff in this universe and with this character, it's going to ruin those 4 movies and the perfect ending. We've already heard rumors that Keanu Reeves was reportedly in contract talk to return for a John Wick 5, which in my opinion makes absolutely no sense. There's no room for a prequel in this franchise, and if you do a sequel to John Wick 4, it again makes absolutely no sense given the ending of that film. And listen, you made 4 great movies, they were a big hit and made a ton of money, but I feel like it's time to just accept the success that they were and move on, because now they're trying to do all this other stuff without actually the character John Wick 2, and I feel like they need to realize that's just not going to work. Like a year ago, they came out with a Continental series that takes place in the world of John Wick with obviously the Continental building. Absolutely nobody in the world cared about this or watched it even when it came out. There was literally no buzz about this. You probably didn't even know it existed. Next year, we're getting a spin-off named Ballerina starring Ana de Armas, and we know that John Wick is going to have an appearance in this movie, but this is supposed to release this year and it actually got delayed due to reshoots. People are thinking that the film tested so poorly, and now the rumor is that they're adding in a lot more John Wick into this movie. I'm really tired of Hollywood just taking a mega franchise and thinking that on its own can carry it, when in reality Keanu Reeves as John Wick is what made these movies so good and made people want to go see it. It's not just the name or the world of the franchise in general, which leads me right into the next movie, which is the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I think we actually need more of, because yes, they had a pretty solid ending. I'm sorry, these films are just way too good. They're so fun. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of At World's End. I think it's way too long, and I think On Stranger Tides is actually pretty bad, but the rest I actually think are a blast. But this franchise continuing comes with a caveat. Again, you need Johnny Depp to return as Jack Sparrow. He is what makes all of these movies so fun and enjoyable. But the latest rumors from Disney have been saying that they're going to replace Johnny Depp with Io Edeberry as the star of the next Pirates of the Caribbean, the 6th film. Now listen, I think Io Edeberry is an amazing actress that's going to have a great career, and I honestly think she would be an amazing fit for the next Pirates movie, but I think having her straight up replace Johnny Depp is a big mistake, and there's a better way to go about this. I think the only way to do this is you have to give Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow one last incredible adventure and have Io Edeberry kind of be like his sidekick in this film. And then at the end of this film, you can send off Jack Sparrow with a great ending. Maybe he retires or makes some sacrifice and he passes on the mantle to Io Edeberry's new character, and then you can keep making more films without him if you want. But I do think there is so much potential in this world, but I think again, you just need Johnny Depp to be the bridge to the next generation. You can't just completely replace them. We've seen time and time again, just having the same franchise name with a whole new bunch of characters, it never works. Hear me out on this one. I think the Saw franchise needs to come to an end at this point. Now listen, I actually think Saw X, the last Saw film we got in 2023, is actually a pretty decent film. It's not a masterpiece or anything, but it's solid. But again, this is just a certain franchise and a certain type of film that I feel like has reached its point where you're really running out of the stories you can tell before it just feels like it's just cheap cash grabs. Because we have had a million sequels and then prequels to these sequels and prequels to those prequels of sequels. It just keeps going on and on. We're trying to fit things into a million different time places. There has to be a point where you just say, okay, enough is enough. We're going to leave these films as it is. We've made however many it's going to be by the end of it, like 14 or 15 of these things. things. Because again, if you just keep going, you're going to be retreading some of the similar plot points, traps that are very similar to previous films, trying to jam things into more timelines or making alternate universes. We're in a golden age of brand new horror movies and franchises getting birthed in these last couple of years that a lot of people are really excited about. I feel like we need to just let Saw go at this point. I just talked about my Fantastic Beasts films in the last movie I made about less than perfect movie trilogies, because yes, I do think the second film is worse than the first, and then the third is worse than the second. This is a franchise I feel like deserves to keep going for a multitude of reasons. First of all, is just I'm kind of biased to Harry Potter and the Wizarding World, and I want to see more original stories taking place in this universe. Yes, I'm going to watch the new HBO Harry Potter show that's just re-adapting the same books that we already had turned into movies, but it's just so lazy and boring, and I feel like I wish we got more just things like this, more prequels or sequels to the Harry Potter films instead of just the same story over again. Second of all, is what I touched on in my last video, is that this franchise is so weak because, in my opinion, you can tell they were planning to obviously make a fourth and possibly fifth film in this. Since the movies underperformed financially, now we're just kind of left in this weird middle ground where it's like kind of an ending, but not really a satisfying ending, and they just left the door way too open for future installments that it seems like we're never gonna get now. Even if there's a way to turn this into like a series or just movies that you dump onto Max, don't even put them out in theaters, I would just love to see this story finally get fully fleshed out and finished. I stand by my opinion that the Jurassic Park movie should have been one single film, this first Jurassic Park, and that should have been it, because the second and third ones have okay moments in it, but they're nowhere close to the quality of this first film. And then ironically enough, the Jurassic World movies repeat the exact same cycle, where the first one's actually pretty good and decent. I mean, nowhere close to the first Jurassic Park, but a solid film. And then by Dominion, this is just one of the worst blockbusters we've gotten in the last 10 years, a complete disaster, and please just leave this franchise alone. Although sadly they're not listening and we're getting a fourth Jurassic World movie. We don't know if this is going to be another sequel or maybe a reboot, but we do know it's going to have a new cast starring Scarlett Johansson. I don't think Star Wars needs to like completely shut down forever, but I do think we need to take like a nice 5 to 10 year break from Star Wars movies and maybe reduce to like one TV show every year or something like that. I'm sorry, Star Wars is supposed to feel like a special event, and now when we're getting like 2 to 3 TV shows every year and they're now making a ton of new movies that are planning to come out in the next couple of years, it doesn't feel special anymore. Even the TV shows started off really strong with The Mandalorian, and then by the last season of this show, it just doesn't have that same charm as the earlier seasons. Things like the Book of Boba Fett are terrible. Like this year alone, we've now got The Acolyte, which has been just pretty bad so far. It just doesn't feel unique or special, and honestly feels cheaper than a lot of previous Star Wars projects. Later this year, we're getting a Skeleton Crew show. Like, who cares about either of these? We have 3 confirmed movies, but it's a Rey sequel movie where she's rebuilding the Jedi Order, a Mandalorian and Grogu movie being a film conclusion to a TV show, and now an Ancient Jedi movie about like the origin of the Jedi and Sith. I'm sorry, I don't really care about any of those. I think The Mandalorian should just continue as a TV show, and you should do the next season of Andor, and other than that, we need to take like a 5 to 10 year break and come back with a new trilogy completely disconnected from the Skywalkers or anything we've ever seen before. If you made it this far, hit that like button and let me know in the comments one franchise that you want to make more movies and one that you really want to stop making movies.